This is the story of a girl.
Heidi-ho! So, I think this one I'm posting first. Today is another one of those book review marathons for me, and I did just do another book review. So at some point you will see this outfit again. I was just thinking how this is all that I wrote down. Where some of these is like 3 to 4 pages of notes. Yet it still took me 45 minutes to review the book, and I am just astonished. I blow myself away with how much I have to say. So this review, this is all that I wrote down. So we will see if I can beat my own record. Today's book is Literally by Lucy Keating. This was an interesting concept because the tagline is a book about falling in love. So it is essentially the main character realizes she's the main character in someone else's novel. It's essentially a battle for free will because she starts to doubt everything in her life and whether anything she does or says is something that came from herself rather from this writer. So I thought it was a really great idea, and not that it was a terrible book, but it was hard to wrap my mind around sometimes. The main character is a girl named Annabelle. Her brother is Sam, her best friend is Ava. I quite enjoyed Ava because Ava saw things for how they really were. Lucy Keating is the writer. She has 2 love interests, Elliot and Will. Will is the one that was written for her. So Lucy Keating in the novel writes tragedies, essentially. But she has since gone through a divorce. Now she just wants to write a happy ending. So, as writers tend to do, she wrote the perfect man for Annabelle, whereas Elliot is just supposed to be kind of comic relief, just this tertiary character who drops in, says something funny, and leaves. But like a lot of characters tend to do, he decides that he wants to be a bigger role. Not that he's consciously deciding, but within Annabelle's world, Elliot is somebody who becomes an object of her affection when that's not what Keating intended for him to be. So I thought it was really interesting how she explores the art of writing. So if you are interested in writing, this could be a good book for you to read. You see that side of writing that is unintentional, and then you see all of the intentionalities and the way that writing works, but you see it from a character, and in that way it breaks it down into a way that's really easy to grasp and understand. But like I was saying, there were just times when it felt like a paradox, and I just couldn't get my mind around the fact that this is not a book necessarily. Even when it comes to Will, I preferred Elliot over Will because Will felt like the love interest. And I know he was supposed to be the love interest. So it's not that it's wrong that he felt like the love interest, but because he was the intended love interest, their interactions were a bit flatter than her interactions with Elliot. So in a way, it was great writing because Elliot is not supposed to have substance, yet he's the more interesting of the 2 characters. Yet at the same time, you want Annabelle to want Will because that's what she's supposed to want. He's perfect. He's everything that she could have ever wanted. But in that, he's kind of boring. It was frustrating at times, especially, like I said, any conscious thought that Annabelle had came from Lucy Keating. It just got a little wearisome for her to continue to wonder how much of this is really her and how much of it is Lucy. I'm like, all of it is Lucy. It was interesting how she was like, hey, you know what? Actually, her friend Ava pointed this out, I think. Maybe she figured it out on her own. Whatever. Writers rarely write bathroom scenes, so if you want to know that you are you, just go to the bathroom. Or like when she and Will decide to confront Lucy Keating, they are like, we have got to start our journey at night while she is asleep. So it's that great concept of a character is alive on its own and it's creating its own story, because that's kind of the subconscious of a writer is like, we have intentions for scenes, we have intentions for characters, and then it just goes in a totally wrong direction, and we're like, how in the world did it get there? It's because they're doing things at night. They're having conversations in the bathroom, so that when you come back to them, you're like, oh, I don't remember. I don't understand. I don't know where any of this came from. It's really interesting. So I'm kind of jumping around here, but in that thread of this being a writer's book, when she and Will do eventually make it to Lucy's house, one character comes out of the house and Lucy's like, yeah, like she just wants more part of the story and I'm just not letting her have it. And then Annabelle will see her clothes or other aspects of the people she knows or of her surroundings in Lucy's house. And she says, well, why are these things here? And Lucy's like, because everything about you is from me. So all the things that I've given you are here. And they're gonna be in my house until I'm ready to let them go. And that's so true. Like, we hold on to every bit of our characters. We know what our characters like to wear. We know our characters' favorite sports. Like, we know the layout of their high school and who their friends are and all those kinds of things. And so those are essentially going to reside with you. They're going to be on your idea board or whatever it is. So I thought, like, there were some really genius moments. I did at some point get tired of this novel because it kind of spun its wheels and I just skipped ahead. Anyways, we open up and Annabelle kind of has this picture perfect life. Her dad was a super successful screenwriter, and then he, he sold all of his, not his rights, but he sold something, and now he really doesn't need to work. And then her mother is interior designer, and she's successful in her own right. And here is the moment we learn that her dad has been spending a lot of nights in his man cave. And I'm like, ugh, we know where this is going. So why, when they drop the bomb that they're getting a divorce, why that is news to Annabelle? Like, how? Because she's super intelligent. She's very type A. She's very structured. Like, for somebody so clever, how did she not put these pieces together when I figured it out 2 pages in that was going to happen? And of course, this is a plot device that Lucy Keating is using because there needs to be an inciting incident and then a key event that gets the story moving, and the parents divorcing is that key event. And then with the parents' divorce, like, they have this amazing home. Her mother has created this wonderful home and is capital T, the, capital H, house. So the house. And I was like, I didn't really need that because the house wasn't actually a character unto itself. It was just a really great house. But with the parents divorcing, they're going to sell the house, which again is just a remnant of her childhood that she will no longer have. And we meet her brother Sam, and then we meet Elliot, who, this again was a missed opportunity. And it goes into that stereotype realm where the three of them had been BFFs as children. And of course, now Sam and Elliot are still BFFs and they're in a band together. But she and Elliot are no longer friends. Why? We don't know. It's not explained. Elliot keeps popping up. He is the exact opposite of her, in which he never has a plan. He can't follow through with anything. He goes through a string of girls, apparently butt heads over that. Although when the story opens, when she finds out that her parents are divorcing, first, so she walks into the kitchen and they have coffee and donuts from this really great donut place. Her dad just hands over her coffee to Elliot. Why? I mean, her parents were kind of thoughtless. Like, I didn't think they were really great people. But then the dad's like, hey, can you give Annabelle a ride to school? Like, why is he shunting her to the side? Like, why is he pushing her on Elliot to take care of? Like, couldn't Sam give her a ride? Couldn't one of them give her a ride? Why does she not have her own car? They're wealthy enough. I mean, apparently her parents are the kind of wealthy that don't know they're wealthy or don't care that they're wealthy. But they always have broken down cars because they don't see a point in buying something new or nice, at least. She rides to school with Elliot. They get there. I forget what she said, but then he makes this really off the wall comment about how great she looks in her jeans. We've already kind of picked up on a little bit of romantic tension, but we don't know yet that Annabelle is a piece of fiction and that they're all a piece of fiction. And so I just thought it was a little weird that we would just throw this out there because there's not really been any flirtation between the two. There's at this point been no indication of an attraction. I mean, it's possible that we could say Annabelle was lying to herself about how she felt about Elliot, but I don't know. So she gets to school and we get a rundown of all of her classes, and we learn, because she's from California and they just do things differently there, that only in California and only in a school like hers would they have to take creative arts electives, like things that expand the mind, hippy dippy kind of stuff. This year she's in fiction, and even though she's this fantastic writer, she is the editor of her school paper, blah blah blah, she can take facts and turn them into a story, but she cannot create a story out of nothing. So she is doing horribly in this fiction class. However, today's a special day because her teacher, who writes smutty romance under a pseudonym, has invited her friend, best-selling author Lucy Keating, to come talk to their class. And this is a moment I both love and hate. Well, first, we meet Will, the new kid, halfway through the school year, transferring schools. So there's that Hallmark movie essence right there. But Lucy 100% describes Annabelle's life. And Annabelle's like, excuse me? So then she raises her hand and she's like, is this a joke? Why are you writing my life? She then approaches, because it's this Hallmark movie, she is paired up with Will to be his buddy. Because the girl who's supposed to be his buddy all of a sudden couldn't. She approaches Lucy Keating in the parking lot and she's like, what is going on here? And Lucy straight up tells her, well, because you're a character in my book. I both love and hate that we know this right away and we know this up front, but I kind of wish there'd been some more finesse with this. Things could have been happening and then we learn that Annabelle is a character in a book. It was a little abrupt for me. From there on out, she is now wrestling between Will and Elliot, because Will is the guy that she should like, that she automatically likes. Yet there's something about Elliot that has now caught her attention. And just like any good love triangle, he keeps showing up in places he shouldn't. They keep having encounters. She's starting to fall for Elliot, even though she knows she shouldn't, and she doesn't understand why she's falling for him. But like, she still can't get her mind off Will. And so it's a good juxtaposition. Whenever you read these books, unless it's Twilight and Jacob and Edward, like, girls don't normally have warring feelings about two guys, and that they're essentially the same kind of warring feelings, because there's nothing really wrong with either guy, and so they're both kind of the right guy, even though we know Elliot is no kind of a match for her. But he does all the genuine, authentic things that feel genuine and authentic, when Will does all kinds of sweet things, but it feels contrived because he's a character in a book. We get to a moment where she goes to Will's party. And again, this is that high school Hallmark movie where the new kid who's super hot and asks you out like the first day you meet each other becomes instantly popular and has this bash. So she goes, but the only person she's waiting to show up is Elliot. And then when he finally does show up, he's like, I don't know what happened when I was trying to get here. All these things that prevented me from getting here on time, like, don't make sense. At which point she is like, oh my gosh, Lucy Keating 100% is writing my life. She pulls him into the bathroom and they're talking about it. She kisses him. They end up going to a beach and she reveals this truth to him, to which he does not react positively. He doubts her. They get into a fight. She leaves. She's very upset with him. But for some reason, he just can't understand why she's upset with him. He invites her to a show. Like, he straight up says, look, I want you to be there. Will you be there? And she's like, maybe. I'll let you know. And she skips school and hangs out with Will, who, you know, this is that whole thing of like, if this isn't really our life, it doesn't matter what we do. And he asks her, he's like, look, I have this sneaking suspicion that I'm not a real person. And for me, I'm like, how'd you come to that conclusion? I know you were in the same class when Lucy Keating showed up, but you heard Annabelle ask her, like, why are you describing my life? But like, there's no nugget planted in his head about this. So what caused him to start thinking he was a character in a novel? They use this as an excuse to do what they want, because if they're the main characters, Lucy's not gonna write them off. Will still can't manage to be a bad boy. He just can't manage to do anything wrong because he's the perfect guy. This is when Annabelle then decides, look, I will go to Elliot's concert, his show. Clara, his ex-girlfriend, who had been the singer of their band and then had left for another band, but then had come back on her hands and knees. She's having a great time. And then all of a sudden, Clara is like, well, I've got a song. And this song is basically all about Elliot, the stereotype that it is. Annabelle's like, oh, well, they're totally back together. He's just been playing me for a fool. At which point she leaves. Elliot chases her, but then they get interrupted by a music exec. You know, that's a wrench in the mix. So there's all these things that's really cool to see the structure of a novel, even though it's a novel and you're not supposed to really see a structure in a novel, but because it's a novel about a novel, like, it's okay. And it was really neat. I mean, rough drafts are rough. And there's this moment where Annabelle is walking down the street, seeing all these very familiar places, until she notices, like, not a copyright symbol per se, but like the shorthand for when we don't know what we want to put there. So it's kind of like, we're going to put this here instead. And so it's cool the way she starts to see all these things for what they really are. But then I'm confused because I'm like, so if these were all part of her history, how come Lucy Keating is so uncertain about them now? She decides, Will and I, we have got to go find Lucy Keating because we have got to stop her from writing our lives. And can I say, there's one thing I didn't understand. Well, there's a lot of things I didn't understand. But there would be these moments where we'd be in the scene, only for like a paper airplane to come zooming through Annabelle's window, and it would be describing what was going to happen next, and then automatically that would happen next. And I didn't understand why we needed those moments. I can even conjecture about what those moments were supposed to represent. But she convinces Will, she's like, look, we're going to go find Lucy Keating. It is nighttime. She will be sleeping. So this is what we're going to do. And then when things started to go wrong, it's because Lucy Keating had woken up. So now we're at Lucy's house, and I've already spoiled those things about seeing pieces from Annabelle's life all over the house. And she does. She successfully gets Lucy Keating to stop writing her life. Only for her to realize on the drive home what that actually means, which is she's a paper doll in a drawer. She's an idea in a drawer if Lucy is not bringing her to life. So everything essentially disappears and she becomes just this flat entity. She arrives back to what should be her home and gets into what should be her kitchen. Somehow she discovers a pen and a journal, a notebook, and she decides, hey, I'm going to start writing my own life. This is when she becomes the author of her own story, and she does decide Elliot over Will. We end up on the beach, like she's in this nothing world, but the scene she creates is of her and Elliot back at the beach. She is going over all of this again, and he is accepting it, and they're coming to terms. That full circle moment where she'd been so uptight and unwilling to let go in the beginning, and now that we're at the end, she has learned that she needs to let go and she needs to enjoy her life a little bit more. So it was an interesting concept of the book. The implication is that she and Elliot live happily ever after. We have no idea what happens to Will, which is really sad because he was a good dude. I have mixed feelings about this book. I really do. So I can't say it was bad, but it was kind of an uncomfortable novel in that the author, trying to combine these two ideas, they almost fought against each other at times. But I would love to know what you think. I would love for a like, a comment, a subscribe, all those things that tell me it is worth staying up until right now. It is 11:30. By the time I finish my next review, my final review in my marathon, it'll probably be closer to 1. I'd love to know that my sacrifices are worth it. And I'll see you next time. Bye.